Welcome. You're listening to The Human Resource. Yeah, it's me, Pandy Pridemore, coming from Cincinnati, Ohio at ICRC-TV studio. It's good to have you back. I hope you're enjoying these shows. I have to remind you, you're the listener, so this is your show. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me who you want to hear from. You know, the more I can provide for you that's relevant and needed, the more successful we're both going to be. And I think today's topic should kind of hit all of us, because this is something that I'm really working with my clients. You know, there's no big secret. We're having trouble hanging on to people. Retention is a huge focus for many teams and companies. But here's a topic that nobody's talking about. And, you know, I'm a huge reader. I love listening to what other people are thinking or what other people have experienced and what their opinions are. It doesn't mean I'm always going to agree. Anyone who knows me knows that I have my own very strong opinions, but there's a topic that I just really struggled with to try to find some more insight on to bring to you, because I really think this is something we need to be talking about, and that's the exit interview. How many of you are actually doing exit interviews? And I'm not talking about, well, why are they leaving? Because if you're getting a resignation letter, or better yet, if you're terminating them, obviously we have an idea of why they're leaving. But come on, guys, I'm an old shoe. I've been around for over 40 years in human resources. And I don't need to tell any of you, but I will remind you that there's a really deep-seated reason why somebody didn't work out or somebody's leaving. And if you really, really want to know about how to keep your good people, you're going to start asking more questions, and you're going to start using the information to help the ones that are still with you. So my question today is, are you doing an exit interview? Now, again, exit interviews are not something we do a lot of talk about. You don't go to a seminar. I haven't seen any seminars. Legal teams and employment law organizations they're not giving seminars or webinars on how to do an exit interview. But I felt you and I should be talking about that, because let's be truthful. If you don't know what could be going on in your organization, how can you fix it? I mean, seriously, if you're an HR person to be nothing but the social director and you just want to do the fun stuff, then you're in the wrong spot. It's interesting. My mentor, who's an attorney in Columbus, worked with him for years and years and years. But he once looked at me and he said, Pandy, if I talk to somebody who says, I'm just such a people person, I just love doing HR because I'm a people person, he says, I don't give them any consideration at all. Because in the world that we're in today, in the society and the concerns and the issues that businesses are dealing with today in 2022, a people person is not going to solve the problems of a company. You've got to understand the employment laws, the federal and the state employment laws that wrap around that. And that includes the issues of discrimination, that includes the issues of harassment, that includes issues of retaliation. Come on, guys, if you're not doing an exit interview with your employees, how do you know that one of those three topics isn't the real reason that employee is leaving? You know, it used to be that we'd say, well, you know, they stay for the people. Well, yeah, but in this area, in this realm that we're in today, they want to stay for the people, but they're leaving for money. They may be leaving because of a safety issue. Maybe they're leaving because they've gotten their feelings hurt. Come on, it's a whole different world out here. And if anybody knows that, it's going to be an old shoe like me. But you need to learn now. If you've only been in HR for 5-10 years, you haven't collected the bumps and bruises yet. And an exit interview will absolutely, I'm telling you, it will absolutely open up your world and help you build a stronger foundation for keeping the really good employees that you may still have. So ask yourself, if you're not doing an exit interview, why not? Why not? And this is not something, in my opinion, it's not something you have to go to the CEO and go, hey, may I? I'd really like, you just do it. You do it. If your responsibility is in a human resource role, let me give you some hints on how to do this and do it properly. If you are doing it, are you doing it just by a paper? Are you doing it by a survey? Or are you sitting down and actually talking to the person? And in many situations, my clients will call me and say, hey, I need you to do an exit interview with this person. Or I don't know why this person's left. They kind of ghosted at us. I think it's job abandonment. And I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the employee myself. I'll say, no, you know what? I'm not willing to accept that. There's got to be more to the story, and I want to know what it is. So if you're using paper, I'm going to ask you to really seriously consider doing that one-on-one and doing that conversation, even if it's on the phone with a remote worker. Engage with those individuals. How many, let me ask you this, how many, when you send paper, do you actually get back? I had a client that did that. They had a 2.5-page exit interview, and they would just hand it to the individual once they got the resignation and say, hey, here's our exit interview. If you could, fill it out and bring it back to me, I'd really appreciate it. Well, the turn-in rate, the response rate was horrible. I mean, how would you feel if somebody just handed you a piece of paper and said, here, tell us how we did? I'd say, well, you're doing really bad. Yeah, you could be doing a whole lot better if you treated me like a real person. So there's my first advice, is if you're doing it by paper, or if you're not doing it, do it. And if you're going to do it in person, do it personable, and then do it prior to the person leaving. Again, respond to them quickly. Even if you're not going to sit down and talk to them as soon as you get that resignation letter, make an appointment too. Even if it's an email saying, hey, I'm a little surprised that we got the resignation letter, or we're happy for you for the new job, but could you spend about 15 minutes with me? You will get a response then. And if you don't get a response, there could be an even bigger reason. And that should just open up all sorts of questions for you. One of the reasons, and then I have to ask, who, if you're not going to do it as the HR representative, who in the organization is going to do it? Who's going to have that conversation? And here's why I want you to do it beforehand. One of the biggest faux pas that I see in organizations when it comes to individuals leaving the company, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, is that this is prime time for retaliation. This is prime time for individuals in the company, whether they're supervisors, team leads, managers, or even just employees, working in the group. Prime time for them to take it out on the other employee because they're leaving. And don't think for a minute that just because the person has resigned or is leaving the company that they can't file a retaliation suit on you. So you need to make sure that the person that's going to do that exit interview is going to be sensitive and listening for any signs of retaliation. And you can only do that if you're doing it prior to them leaving. So just something for you to think about. And then you decide who's going to do it. You've decided when you're going to do it. You've decided how you're going to do it because you've decided to do it. But now the question is, who's going to be privy to your information? One of the things that I try to coach my clients on is keep it simple. I mean, what information do you really need? And who needs that information? You obviously need to know the real reason for the person leaving. Well, I got a better job. Why is it better? I'm so excited for you, but What do they offer you? What is your new employer going to offer you that we weren't able to offer you? What do you know about that company that's different than our company? Find the real core reason, because again, if you show interest, if you show that you truly want to know whatever it is that they have, or that they is driving them to leave, whether a good employee, bad employee, they'll tell you in one way or another. And doing it in person, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a body language person. I am watching every movement you make, whether it's your eyes, whether it's your arms, whether it's the way you're sitting, whether it's the way your smirk or your smile or your scorn. I even watch how many times you take deep breaths. And if you're sitting in front of that individual and they're uncomfortable and you're doing everything best to help them be comfortable, there's a bigger story there. And if that individual is suffering from, let's say, they don't feel safe in your environment, or they don't feel like they've been treated fairly, how many other employees do you have that may be suffering from the same situation? It's interesting. I gave a presentation this morning to a group of business people, and part of it was on I think there's like 10 different, eight or 10 different dispositions and behaviors of bullying. Bullying. And it was easy to look around the room and say, every single one of us have been bullied at some point. What we don't want to hear is that you're currently being bullied in your workplace. That can come out in your exit interview if you make them feel comfortable and you ask them, what's the real reason? Help me understand. What can we do better? And then a good question, and again, we're keeping this simple. A good question is, how well was your job structured? Did you have the tools to succeed? Did we train you correctly? How was communication? Again, just give them these open-ended questions and let's see what feedback we get. Another question would be, did you have the opportunity to learn and grow? How many times have we been told that when an employee feels appreciated, when they feel that they have the opportunity to grow and that there's a future at a company, that it still doesn't guarantee they're going to stay 15 or 20 years. But I can tell you, they'll stay longer than 6 months or a year. You'll get your investment back if they feel that you're loyal to them. They'll be loyal to you. And then have an open mind and give them the opportunity to tell you how you can improve or the company can improve in their interactions with employees. Give them the opportunity to tell you maybe some opportunities where we can get better. Now, I started this whole conversation, this question with, who should be privy to all this? Because it's my last comment. Ask questions that you're going to act on. And I mean that. If you want to live in denial, and if you want to just push everything away and make it, well, it's their fault, not ours, well, there's a good chance that definitely will not be the last employee that leaves your company. And I'm going to go back to my earlier conversation and say, you probably aren't the right person to be HR in that company. But if you're willing to just open up the doors and open up communication and say, look, this truly means something to us. We really want to have a good place to work, and we want people excited to come to work, because daggone it, everybody deserves to be excited to go to work. You're going to get the right information, and then you're going to be able to go back and make some improvements. It's interesting. I go back to some of the books. There's a book here. It's a super easy read. Oh my gosh, this is an easy read. It's called I Quit, but Forgot to Tell You. And in here, the author, Terry Kabachemnik, states 68% of an employee's productivity is directly attributable to the supervisor. Now, how would you know that? How would you know if that's true without asking the employee? You have to ask these questions, and you got to be prepared to act on them. And then another really great book that I found a great reference in, and I haven't read this one for a while, but I need to go back to it. Powerful Conversations, How High Impact Leaders Communicate by Phil Harkins. And Phil's got a whole section in here about how companies have swamps. And yeah, I said that, a swamp. And what the damages of a swamp can do to an organization. So my question to you is, can you afford to have a swamp in your company? And if you do, why aren't you asking where it's at? Conduct an exit interview here for the next couple weeks if you have some people leaving the company, and see if I didn't have some good points. And then let me know. My name is Pandy Pridemore, and you've been listening to The Human Resource.